Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome into Morning Jocks. Conrad Van Order, John Saber here with you as we cap off another week and get you excited for a fantastic weekend of sports. So we've got two big events here. Obviously, we have the Super Bowl coming up on Sunday, which I know many of us are very excited about. But tomorrow we also have what we love to call the IBOB, the Iron Bowl of basketball. So that'll be down there in Neville Arena at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Alabama will go and see if they can knock off the Auburn Tigers on the road. Auburn will try to defend their home court, obviously, against their rivals. And some big news potentially looming this morning that will impact the game coming up tomorrow. But between that, the Super Bowl, a lot to look forward to this weekend, and it is a Final Score Friday, so it is a little bit of a different one here because typically, right, we just have you go down the list of college football games and tell us what you think is going to happen over the weekend. But since we have a little bit of a different flavor, we will you can do either one, either or you can do both. But your score prediction for Alabama versus Auburn on the hardwood tomorrow, and then also your Super Bowl predictions. We would love to hear those from you. 205-834-9450 if you want to call in or text in on the courtesy GMC text line. So we love Final Score Friday. We love hearing from y'all and getting all of your different predictions, and can't wait to see what's on your mind today. But we have to start off with something that will be taking place roughly 3.5 hours from right now, and that is going to be a hearing for one Charles Bediako. And if you're not familiar with the situation, you might be a little confused, or if maybe you just weren't on social media as much yesterday, because we had a situation a couple of days ago where they had decided or announced that they were interested in delaying the case. They were wanting to delay it, the hearing until February the 16th, which would open up Charles Bediako to play in the next 4 games for the Alabama Crimson Tide and extend his temporary restraining order. But then you had the Judge Pruitt in this case, who sided with the NCAA yesterday morning and basically said, yeah, no, I agree with the NCAA. This court hearing, there's no reason for it to be delayed any further. We need to just go ahead and get it done. So it's going to happen on Friday as initially scheduled. So that was kind of the first announcement, was that the trial was going to take place this morning, and around 9:30 this morning, from what I understand, is when the hearing is expected to get underway. But then you had I would say something that was a little surprising last night, which was you had the commissioner of the Southeastern Conference, Greg Sankey, effectively come out and openly side with the NCAA in this hearing, in this case, and essentially say that, yeah, the NCAA needs to win this case. Charles Bediako needs to be ruled ineligible because this is setting a bad precedent for college sports. So it's, again, for me, pretty unprecedented that you have a commissioner openly going against one of the member institutions of their conference, on top of the fact that, I mean, you love it or hate it, whatever it is, like Alabama's one of the more prominent members of the conference, which maybe that doesn't mean anything to you, but I promise you, they know who makes the most money and who puts the most eyeballs on the conference. They know who they need to keep happy. And we obviously all know that Alabama is one of those teams, one of those universities in the Southeastern Conference. But before we dive deeper into that, you had essentially what Greg Sankey had said was that we needed to, the NCAA needed to win this hearing because it needed to maintain the NCAA eligibility rules, which are essential to the integrity of college sports. And he never specifically mentioned Charles Bediako and Alabama by name, but I think we know exactly what he is discussing here in this situation. It's wild that you have a commissioner that has had multiple weeks now to come out and say something about that. If he had wanted to, right? The second that Alabama announced they could do this, he could have come out and said, hey, as a conference, we are going to punish the University of Alabama if they make this player eligible or if they decide to put him on the active roster. We don't think that's good for the competitive spirit. We're the SEC. We're here. We're all about what's good for the game of college basketball. And so we are not going to allow you to do that as a member institution of our conference. But he waited until yesterday, for some reason, to come out and speak out on this and to make a statement on it. At the same time, I did not hear or see him make any comments or any statements regarding what's going on with Trinidad Chambliss at Ole Miss, what's going on with Joey Aguilar at Tennessee. And while I understand that they are all unique situations, if, according to him, maintaining the, I guess the guidelines around eligibility in college sports, if that's essential to the integrity of college athletics, well, those are eligibility situations as well. So it feels to me like if that's ultimately what matters most at the end of the day is the integrity of the sport as it relates to eligibility and maintaining those standards of you have 4 years to compete at the college level and you have a 5-year clock to essentially complete those 4 years of participation. It just seems odd to me that you would specifically go after the Alabama basketball player, but you're not going after the Tennessee football player or the Ole Miss football player.
One thing he said in the filing, I thought, I don't say helped his cause, but was like, oh, okay, like, you know what, you can kind of back him and stand behind him for this. He said, and I quote, inconsistent application of the NCAA eligibility rules challenged in this case through court rulings or otherwise fuels disruption in college sports, end quote. Like, that is not wrong. And that, I think, also ties into Aguilar, ties into Chambliss. The inconsistent application of the NCAA eligibility rules, that is something that the NCAA has seemingly been doing for the last several months, if not really several years, for whatever reason, picking and choosing. Okay, yeah, you know what, Diego, yeah, you were hindered with the inability to make more NIL while you were in JUCO. So yeah, we're gonna give you another year of eligibility. Oh, Trinidad Chambliss, you had the same thing more or less. We're not gonna give it to you. Yeah, it has been inconsistent. But going on to say permitting former professional athletes to return to competition creates a competitive disadvantage and fundamental unfairness for current student athletes who have not pursued a professional sports career. That's not wrong either. But to Conrad's point, where was this several weeks ago? You could have easily stepped in and said that, or there was a time where even though players could transfer, you couldn't transfer in conference. Like that was a conference rule. That wasn't the NCAA thing. That was a, hey, we'll fine. We'll let you transfer, but not here, not in this conference. Like, the way we do things here, it's going to be like that. It's almost like, yeah, there's a national off or something, but we got some states' rights here that we're kind of do things this way, which for the most part has kind of worked throughout a good bit of college football. That, okay, fine, if you guys want to allow this, if everybody's in on it, cool. But if some aren't going to, that we're going to at least have a discussion on it and try and figure it out. So I hate to say this, but it feels like Greg Sankey's, I don't want to say his leadership is waning. It's just it felt like he's made some questionable decisions over the last little bit too. And it's just like, for someone that was seemingly infallible, now he's starting to stumble a little bit. And it's like, whoa, what's going on?
No, I'm glad you brought that up because that's exactly what's going on, and that's the reality of it. And I was talking with people about this yesterday, and it was brought up the idea that think about it, until now, there hasn't really been a whole lot of adversity for the SEC, right? The SEC's just kind of they've kind of been very successful, right?
Anything, they got stronger.
Exactly. Yeah. And now you've gotten to a point where, this is the reality of it. You now have a conference commissioner that is openly going against one of its member institutions because he wants to stand up for what's right in the integrity of college athletics. And I think it's absolutely comical that you would mention inconsistent application of NCAA eligibility and how that could be damaging to college athletics when they do that to themselves. Are they not selective with themselves of how they go about the process of allowing players to transfer? Like we talked about this yesterday. Like it's I'm sorry, but you're speaking into the void at this point. You're saying it's crap. It's crap. It really is. Like, I'm sorry, Greg Sankey, it's crap. you don't even believe this, but you're putting it in there because it sounds nice. And to Saber's point as well, okay, you're now openly going against a member institution on top of the fact that you are basically need to call Tony Petiti your daddy now because he talked you into a 9-game conference schedule, which you agreed and got everyone on board with, and then he screwed you over, and now you've put the SEC in a situation where it's going to be harder for them to compete and get as many teams in the college football playoff because you walked into a trap that the Big Ten set for you, and now you've potentially put the conference behind the 8 ball. And that is 100% factual, and that is something that is on him and his responsibility, and that is a failing of his behalf. And it's just, again, he's done a lot of great things for the conference, but in the last, less than a year now, you're starting to see cracks in the armor. And for the first time, the pressure's on a little bit, and we're seeing how things are being handled when the pressure's on, and it's not very good, in my opinion.
I don't remember what the context was. I was trying to search for it while you were talking, but I remember there was a time where people, maybe it was the 8 to 9 conference game day. I'm not quite sure what it was, but there was a time where people were going at Sankey, hey, you need to do this, hey, you need to change this, hey, you need to do whatever. And because it would be good, it's what's best for college football. And he's like, why do I have to do what's best for college football? I'm not beholden to what's best for college football. Or college sports at least, I'm beholden to my member institutions.
Interesting.
Which, again, okay, fine. Like, I get that. I think it had to do with the schedule, not 100% sure, but I don't remember what it was. But either way, at that point, and we honestly kind of applauded him for, like, yeah, you don't have to do what's best for college football, even though it might have been what's best, but you didn't have to do it. But now he seemingly is choosing to do this because it's what's best for college sports. Like, it feels a little like, hold on, like, what are we doing? Like, just not a year ago, you were choosing not to do something for what's best for college, but now you are. Like, what changed? How is this different?
Well, and the other thing that's important to remember is that Greg Sankey works for these universities. They do not work for him. Greg Sankey is not the boss of the SEC universities. They are his boss. And so at the end of the day, in my opinion, it is probably maybe not again, my personal opinion, maybe not the best idea to go against a member institution of your own conference in a time when people are already starting to get fed up with you and starting to see some of your flaws and some of the areas where you've really messed up and done things the wrong way for this conference. And now you, like you said, you want to pick and choose when you make a stand for what's right for college athletics versus what's right for the universities that ultimately are kind of in charge of you. But again, I have no problem if you want to come out and this is a stand you want to make and you say that this is all a bunch of crap and you want to call out all of the different legal situations going on and you want to weigh in on all of them, okay, so be it. But again, you're cherry picking here and you're taking the one that I guess most people seem to have jumped on the bandwagon of being anti-Alabama or anti-Bediako and siding with the NCAA. And you know what? That's the hill I'm going to die on. I'm going to side with the NCAA, try to get this little victory here. I think a lot of people see through it, though, because like you said, it's why now? Why is this the time that you're choosing to make this stand? Why is now the time that you're trying to do what's best for college sports when before you acknowledged that you're really just trying to do what's best for your member institutions? So kind of wild that you would openly go against Alabama and Charles Bediako in the court hearing coming up today, but that's exactly where we are. And I think it's a bunch of crap. I think that's not a good look for Greg Sankey, in my personal opinion.
I don't disagree, but also I guess I can get why he would go against maybe one institution. It's like, okay, I know one school is doing this, but how long until it affects the other side from another one of my schools? So it's like, all right.
And I get it's more immediate, right, because it's actually happening, whereas I guess like the Chambliss and Aguilar stuff, right, I guess you could view as, well, we have the fall to figure that out. But at the same time, from an optics standpoint, if you're going to openly go against one of your member institutions because of eligibility reasons, probably a good idea to also discuss the other schools in your conference that are dealing with very similar issues related to eligibility. Because, again, are they the same with Bediako, Chambliss, and Aguilar? No, but they are all eligibility issues. And so if you're going to take a stand about eligibility against one player, I highly recommend you do it against three. And I know we're not supposed to go there, not supposed to say these things, but the reality of it is, do you really, is Alabama really one of those universities that you want to tick off? Probably not, because at the end of the day, you really kind of need them. They're pretty important for you. So, um,
Glad I have Ken's Comrade back.
I just, I wasn't very happy last night, and I thought that, I just, I, at the end of the day, part of it's sad too, right? Because for such a long time, Greg Sankey was so highly revered and he was almost impenetrable, right? Because he did such a great job for the conference and everything was going so well. And, is the SEC is dominating and now they're not anymore. And, again, it's not his fault, right? Like he's not out there playing on Saturdays and trying to win a national championship. But I do think that, over the last year or so, for the first time, I think it's very fair to question his leadership and some of his decision making. And I think last night was another great example of that. So we want to hear from you, 205-834-9450, your thoughts on the entire situation with Bediako, Greg Sankey coming out and siding with the NCAA. But we do also have a basketball game to preview because we've got Alabama and Auburn down in Neville Arena coming up tomorrow, and we've got the Super Bowl on Sunday. So we'd love to hear your final score predictions as well. 205-834-9450. That'll get you on the Courtesy GMC text line, and we roll along on a Friday here on Morning JOX. 6:22 here on your Friday morning. Appreciate you tuning in, Morning Jocks. Here, Conrad and John with you until 7 o'clock when we will hand you off to McElroy and Kublik in the morning as they will continue getting you set for a big-time weekend of cross college basketball and, of course, the Super Bowl coming up on Sunday. So if you're just now joining us, we spent a lot of time talking about Charles Bediako and the hearing that he will have later this morning. So coming up around about 3 hours or so from now, that will be getting underway, and we hope to deliver, I guess, a final resolution, hopefully, to you at some point during three-man front today. But we'll see if they get that in before 2 p.m. or not. But obviously big implications because the potential, right? Charles Bediako, if he's cleared, then everything's fine. He could play for the rest of the year, so be it. But also a very real possibility that he gets denied, at which point he would immediately be ineligible and he would not be able to play in the Iron Bowl of basketball tomorrow. So could have some immediate implications, impact for the game coming up in Neville Arena tomorrow. But going to be very fascinating to see how it all plays out in the courtroom later on this morning. And, of course, we'll keep you up to date on that. But we also spent a lot of time talking about Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, who came out yesterday and openly sided with the NCAA against Charles Bediako and said that for the integrity of college athletics, that the eligibility rules need to be protected. And so the NCAA needs to win this case today, and Charles Bediako does not need to be playing for the University of Alabama. So I went on a little bit of a rant about that. Some of you have chimed in with your thoughts, 205-834-9450 on the Courtesy GMC text line. I will try to say this again, though. This is not a situation of being frustrated at Commissioner Sankey because I think Charles Bediako should necessarily be able to play. I think the whole thing's crap from the beginning with Charles Bediako. I think it's ridiculous that that's something that you can even do. But within the guidelines of, I guess the rules of college sports right now, technically he is eligible to play. So while I don't like it and I don't think it's a good thing overall for the health of the sport, they're not technically breaking the rules by doing that. And if he gets ruled ineligible today, then that will be all that she wrote. The problem that I had and that I was trying to address is that you have situations going on in the SEC with other universities, and particularly two schools and their quarterback at Ole Miss and Tennessee, that are dealing with eligibility legal battles at the same time. And Commissioner Sankey feels the need to come out and openly go against Alabama and their basketball program, but he is being quiet about what's going on with Ole Miss and Tennessee. It's about fairness, right? That's all it is. It's okay, if this is how you feel and you really feel strongly about these eligibility rulings, that's great. But just have, if you're going to say it about one program, say it about everybody. These are all high-profile cases that everyone's aware of if you're following what's going on in college athletics. So it's just more so the fact that you're, again, it's like imagine you're at work and two of your coworkers and you all do something stupid, right? Or let's say you don't make your sales quota for the quarter, right? And your boss publicly in a meeting calls you out for not making your sales quota, but your two buddies that work with you, they didn't hit it either, but they don't get called out. But it's just you that get called out. You're probably going to have a problem with that, aren't you? You're probably not going to like your boss a whole lot if he openly picks on you while not calling out the people that are doing the exact same right next to you. That's where I have the problem. If you're going to call someone out, fine, but be fair and do it for all of the institutions in your conference. Don't just pick one.
The first time in my professional career where I knew of, I don't know about favoritism, but at least something where it wasn't fair. I worked at Office Max years ago, and we sold some food like snacks, candy, whatever. Well, if it went past date, if it was expired, or if someone returned it, whatever, like we can't, even if it was unopened, like we can't put it back out on the shelf. We're supposed to destroy it.
Mm-hmm.
But my store managers were like, there's no point in destroying it, like, especially if it's perfectly good. Like, just leave it in the back, leave it open. Like, if anyone wants to have it, like, they can have it. No big deal. And so we had it back there. It wasn't a lot, but sometimes it'd just be random pretzels, gummy bears, whatever, something else like that. Well, and everyone went back, partook, had some. I just assumed like that was just par for the course. Well, a district manager came in one day and a semi-new employee like went back there, was just saw some gummy bears, grabbed a handful, and he ended up getting fired that day because he was quote stealing. Right. Now, was
That's
he
wild.
stealing? I guess technically yes,
Yeah.
because those products were supposed to get thrown out. However, like I went and told that. Now, to be fair, that was the loss prevention district manager that came by, so he witnessed it. So his hands were kind of tied. But
Yeah.
also, then again, if it would have been the store manager or if it would have been the lead in electronics or something like that, they might have probably would have pulled him aside, like, "Hey, man, like you can't be doing that." Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know, I wasn't told. And that was his defense. He's like, "What? Like it was here. I was told like you could have this. How was this stealing when I was told I could have it?" But it taught me that okay, there may be rules for some and may not for others, and depending on how your manager feels about you, they may put their foot down. It's like, no, like you're not doing this, and may go after that person, or be like, hey man, sorry, the rules are rules, man, nothing I can do about it. Sorry, son.
It's yeah, and look, no, that's a good example of it's something that again, like we've all seen this in our own personal lives, whether it's like you said, if it's something at work, something in school, we've all had experiences like these. I guess that's where again I just come back to, if you're the commissioner of the conference, again, like it probably not a good idea to really take off Alabama and to essentially go after them. And while you have other universities that are going through very similar situations and they seem to get a free pass, and a lot of you are chiming in and saying, oh, well, these are completely different situations. And, the football players, they haven't gone to the NFL yet. So it's different than the Bediako thing. And okay, it is like the actual legal battles that are going on are different, but they are all eligibility related issues, right? Like with Trinidad Chambliss and Joey Aguilar, it's you've had your time in college, you've gotten those years. Now you want extra years because you're not good enough to go to the NFL or you can't get a big enough payday in the NFL, whatever. So you want to come back to college for another year. Again, I'm not, if you want to say that the Bediako thing's worse than that, that's perfectly fine, right? Okay, I get it. But they're all eligibility issues. And that's where if you're going to call out the Bediako case because it's, hurting the integrity of college athletics, would you not say that every single player that graduates, like a Diego Pavia now trying to get an extra year, is that not also bad for the integrity? Because what are you trying to protect? You want to protect high school athletes and recruiting and have, you don't want a world where college sports become, essentially professional sports and every player on your roster is 24 years old. Like that's what they're trying to protect. But you've got, again, the same thing going on with football players and you're not saying a word about it. But with Charles Bediako, you're openly filing statements against the university and advocating for the NCAA. It's just, that's what this is about. That's what the problem is.
And the choosing to speak or be silent on various things. Now, I'm not going to chide Sankey for this, but I also thought it was wild when before the national championship game, Indiana, Miami, they had their news conferences, whatever, and Carson Beck was, asked about various things, and one of them was, how has it been, getting through class and doing all this, with playoffs and all this stuff on the line. He's like, I graduated some time ago. Class, like, what are you talking about? And so it just feels weird that you have a college player that has graduated, and not just undergrad graduated, like fully done whatever at school, and is still playing. Meanwhile, we'll have someone who, again, technically still has eligibility left, and then we're going to go after him for that. Like it's just a picking and choosing of various things, and I know a lot of fans are upset right now, mostly because their school's either not doing it or it's being hurt by it.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure if Janai Broome was able to come back to Auburn fans would be like, oh yeah, honestly, like I don't have a problem with it whatsoever.
You're absolutely. And again, right? It's like anything else, right? If it benefits you, you're going to be a fan of it, and if it doesn't benefit you, then you're going to be against it, and that's fine. That's human nature, right? That's the way that it goes. And again, I know a lot of you are y'all keep chiming in like these are different cases again, but they're all about the same thing. They're all about eligibility. That's what this is about. It's not about who you think is right or wrong. For what it's worth, I don't think any of these guys should be able to play because whatever rule you want to look at, they have either. In the Bediako case, he decided to go to the NBA. He wasn't good enough to cut it, so he wanted to come back. He shouldn't be allowed to do that because the reality of it is he waived that eligibility to go to the NBA. Totally agree with that. Joey Aguilar, he's had 4 years of college athletics that he got to participate in. He's not good enough to go to the NFL. Go get a real job. Same thing with Trinidad Chambliss. You're good enough to be a 4th-round pick. Go be a 4th-round pick and go play in the NFL. That's how I feel about all these situations. They're all crap. None of it should happen. But it's also crap that Greg Sankey's doing this to the University of Alabama and not to the other member institutions. And with that, we are going to move on. We have a Super Bowl to pick. We have the Iron Bowl of basketball coming up. We're going to give our predictions to you, our score predictions for the 2 big matchups coming up this weekend. We'd love to hear from you as well. 205-834-9450 as we roll along. Super Bowl and iBob picks coming up next on JOX. Welcome back in. Morning Jocks here on your Friday. Conrad and John with you till 7 o'clock when we hand you off to McElroy and Kublik in the morning. Appreciate all of you chiming in throughout the show today. A ton of interaction, a ton of reaction. I know a lot of you think I'm just whining, but I mean, the reality of this is if this was going on with Auburn, we'd be sitting here doing the exact same thing because I'm going to stand up for Alabama or Auburn over, a conference or a commissioner that's going to kind of throw them to the wolves. So, sorry, I'm not, if you don't like that, it is what it is. But that's what we spent a lot of time talking about this morning is what's going on with Bediako and the SEC's response and Commissioner Sankey's response and all that good stuff. But we have actual sports going on this weekend that are going to be fantastic. So we need to talk about that instead. That's more fun here on our Friday. But before we get into some of our final thoughts and predictions for the weekend, we do want to remind you that flu season is here and you can make your home healthier with Trane's Clean Effects Home Air Cleaner. It removes up to 99.9% of airborne particles, including those that cause virus. It's 100 times more effective than standard air filters and 8 times more effective than HEPA room filters. So go find a dealer near you online today at Trane.com. All right, let's start with what's going to happen tomorrow inside of Neville Arena. So you're going to have 3 o'clock tip there for Auburn and Alabama in the first edition of the IBOB. So we'll get the second edition. It'll be the final game of the regular season coming up in just a matter of weeks, honestly. But it'll be a 3 o'clock tip. You can hear the game right here on JOX. And as we go into it, right, you have Auburn. They got the entire week off to kind of rest, get some guys healthy, and, of course, also be able to prepare themselves for the Alabama matchup. Whereas the Tide, they had to face Texas A&M. Earlier in the week on Wednesday night. They got 100-97 victory in that one. And so this is a big game if you just look at the standings, right? Because both teams sit at 5-4 in SEC play. And, yes, you are still technically in contention for the SEC regular season title. But I think at this point, right, a lot of them are just looking at you want to be one of those top 4 teams so that you can get the bye in Nashville when SEC tournament time ultimately comes around. So a lot on the line in this one tomorrow as you kind of look around at bracketologies right now. Auburn, depending on where you look, a 7-8 seed. 7 is kind of like the most popular spot for them right now. Alabama, mainly a 6 seed now after the way they lost to Florida. They fell to a 6 now after A&M. Some people moving them back up to a 5, but that's kind of where you're at now. Alabama 6 seed, Auburn a 7 seed. And then obviously whoever wins tomorrow gets a nice boost there because especially for it's a quad 1 game, so it'll certainly help out both programs. Whoever is able to pull out the victory coming up tomorrow. But a lot on the line there in that one. It's a little different than last year, as we talked about, right? It's not number 1 versus number 2, unfortunately, as fun as that was last year, but still a lot of implications for the NCAA tournament and just general conference play here. So I'll be honest with you, going into this one, going to Neville Arena on the road, that's a very difficult thing for anybody to do. I do like the way that Alabama responded yesterday or 2 nights ago against Texas A&M. But, I mean, again, Texas A&M, they shot the ball well, but Alabama defensively, I mean, you're allowing somebody to score 97 points. That's, not typically a recipe for success. But going on the road to Neville, I'm going to lean Auburn in this one. I think they split the season. I think Alabama will get the one at the end of the regular season in Coleman Coliseum. But for this one, Auburn's a 1.5-point favorite. I would have a slight lean towards Auburn just having the game at home in Neville, had the week off to rest. And both teams have been inconsistent this year, but I'll go with the home team that's had the week off. So I don't know if you feel similarly, Saber, or if you're going with the Tide tomorrow.
That's kind of how I feel. I mean, honestly, either of these teams could win if they get hot, especially from behind the arc. We saw that with Alabama and taking on Texas A&M. I think it was, I think combined they were 30, not quite 40% from behind the arc for both teams, and Alabama actually had the higher percentage. So if Alabama hits their shots, especially early on, yeah, I could definitely see Alabama winning this game, but this Alabama team, especially in conference play, has just been too inconsistent for me to say with my whole chest that, to say definitively that they'll go in and Neville and get the win. Can they go in and do it? Yeah, it would not surprise me, but I just don't. I think that they can. I just don't think that they will. And hey, if they do and surprise me, okay, cool, fine, awesome. Like that's great. But then knowing them, they would turn around and lose at Ole Miss the following game.
Very
And
possible.
for whatever reason, this team, and I don't know if it's distraction from Bediako or this just not as good as other ones, but they just don't seem to be as focused as teams under Oates previously have been. So I just don't see why it would all come together for this Auburn game. Again, very well could, but also I can't trust that it would, even if they do this week, I can't trust that it'll be there the rest of February and even into March. So yeah, I would take Auburn to win just because they're at home. And I think these teams are virtually equal.
Yeah, it should be very close.
So yeah, I'll take the home team then.
Yeah, that's kind of what it boils down for me as well. And just both teams have been inconsistent. If Alabama were to win by 30, well, that would be a surprise. That would be a surprise. But just to say, right, if you had a 12 to 15 point victory either way, I think you could sit there and go, okay, yeah, the other team just they just had one of those games this year where they just look a little bit off. But again, that game's at 3:00 tomorrow tip, and you can hear it right here on JOX. Then we move to Sunday, where you're going to have the Super Bowl, which will be broadcast live on NBC and Peacock. So you're going to have a 5:30 kickoff there. So 6-ish, maybe.
I think it'll be like your normal ABC late game. It says it starts at 6:30. It never
like
started before 50.
Yeah.
So it starts at, I think, technically 5:28. Honestly, I think
you could get in by like 5:45.
I think the NFL honestly is fairly good about that start time. Now, the pregame and all that other stuff may start at like 5:15.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to catch the anthem or Green Day or any all the other stuff, you may have to tune in starting at 5. But I think if by 5:45 we'll have game action.
Hopefully so. But that'll be at Levi's Stadium out there in Santa Clara, California, the home of the 49ers. Of course, there will be the home stadium for the Super Bowl. But Seahawks are a 4.5 point favorite right now. The total is 45.5 for this one. And I really do feel like this is, again, just from a competitive standpoint, I feel like I know a lot of people seem to be on the Seahawks, but it feels very evil. Or very even, very equal. Even not very.
That far forward,
not very evil.
Okay.
I couldn't decide between even and equal, and so we got evil.
All right, there it is. All right.
But no, it seems like it should be a very equal matchup between these two opponents. And I think you could give benefit maybe if you want to the Seahawks and say, well, Sam Darnold's more experienced. So I'm going to trust him more in this situation. Or you could go, well, it's Sam Darnold, and in the big moments, I don't know if I'm still there yet. So I'm going to go with Drake May and Mike Vrabel because he just seems like, a solid coach, what have you. But with Seattle getting 4.5, I do think, again, it's a very close game. And with it being that big of a spread, I would take the Patriots. I like the Patriots plus 4.5. Again, I think it's a coin flip in terms of who ultimately wins the game, but I really do like the Patriots, and I brought it up earlier this week as not saying it's guaranteed to happen, but the Patriots have made it here with Drake May, who finished runner-up in MVP voting last night, by the way. Shout out to Matthew Stafford. Can't believe Damien's not here to celebrate.
I think that's why
today.
he took off.
I think
in the event that he knew that he would have to be on air.
I think you're absolutely
discussing
right.
Matthew Stafford not only winning MVP, but I think also he was maybe worried that Eli Manning might have gotten in the Hall of Fame too.
Yeah.
So he's like, you know what? I'm just going to take off and not worry about it.
You're right. Well, we'll talk about it on Monday when he gets back.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But again, saying that, Drake May, he finished second in MVP voting. So clearly, I mean, he was one of the best players in the NFL this year until he got to the postseason, and he struggled in the first 3 games of their postseason run. But they're still in the Super Bowl, right? So if Drake May looks like the Drake May we saw for the regular season most of the time, I think they have a really great shot. But I like Mike Vrabel. He knows what it's like to be in these types of situations. I like the Patriots defense a whole lot, and they can just kind of ground and pound. I know the Seahawks, they can run the ball very well too, but I know they're a little banged up with some of their running backs. So I'm going Patriots plus 4.5. That's what my gut's telling me. I know everyone's on the Seahawks, it seems, and I think the Seahawks are very, very good. But I'm going to go with the Patriots to at least keep it close, if not pull off the upset.
Okay. All right, this is just you and me talking right here. All right.
Yeah.
I'm currently leading our office pool.
You are.
So, and Ryan's, I think, technically tied with me, but I have the tiebreakers. So I'm worried that if I say what I want to say right now, you might be listening, and then pick opposite, just whether or not he feels that way to give him chance to pass me.
Okay, I
So
got you.
I think that the Patriots are the better team, and therefore the Patriots are going to win. And I think it'll be a scoring fest. So I would take the over. That's what I'm putting out there for everyone that is in the office
Gotcha.
pool that's near me to hear. And that's all I'm going to say on this subject because I really want to finish first.
Yeah, no, you got bigger
Yeah,
fish to fry.
correct, right,
That's
yes.
fine. Yes, we will. You can take that to your grave. So yeah, best of luck to you this Sunday in the office football pool. But okay, so there's your thoughts. Me and Save are both a slight lean to Auburn in the IBOB, with them having home court advantage. I like the Patriots plus 4.5. Save Bear is playing mind games with our boss Ryan Haney. And that's our final thoughts on the predictions for the weekend. But we'd love to hear from you. Some of your score predictions still coming in 205-834-9450 as we put a bow on this. A final score Friday. Love to hear from you as we roll along here on JOX. Final few moments here on Morning Jocks here on your Friday. Conrad and Saber here with you for a few more moments as we are about to head to the courtesy GMC text line 205-834-9450 as many of you continue to chime in on the Bediako situation as well as some score predictions for what's going to happen this weekend. Like Doug, he chimes in. He says the only way Alabama can win tomorrow is if they score 100+ in Neville Arena. Well, that'd certainly go a long way. That would certainly go a long way towards a tied victory tomorrow. Let's see. Drake chimes in and says Alabama could have had another Super Bowl quarterback if Drake May had decided to stay at Alabama, but he did not. He went to North Carolina. But that is a fair point. But maybe Jalen Milroe will get a Super Bowl ring on Sunday, right? Because that's
true. Yeah,
that's what everybody cares about.
I think it's more wild that Sam Darnold's the first USC quarterback to.
Oh, crazy.
Like that?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I know. I think they've had 26 NFL QBs, and he's the first ever. They've had the most quarterbacks in the starting quarterbacks in the NFL. That's
wild to me.
And he's the first to start a Super Bowl. Wild. Let's see. Nick chimes in. He says, he says scoring formula favors Seattle to win by less than a point. Final score prediction would be 23-22. However, I'm taking the Patriots to win because this just feels like 2001 all over again with the Pats. Little ahead of schedule again. I agree. Ken chimes in. He says, Conrad, you're missing the point on Bediako. He made the decision to leave. He wasn't forced out. He needs to learn there are consequences in the adult world for making bad decisions. I agree with that. I said that exact same thing about 20 minutes ago on this show because I 100% agree with what you just said there, Ken. That's not what the situation with Sankey's about. It's not about that at all. This is about you have a commissioner that is openly, publicly speaking out against one university and not two others that are going through very similar legal battles in their athletic departments. That's what this is about. I completely agree. I don't think Bediako ever should have come back and played, but he did, and this is the reality of the situation. But it's just like I told you, if you didn't hear it earlier. Charles Bediako came back to college because he wasn't good enough for the NBA. Joey Aguilar wants to come back to college because he's not good enough for the NBA. And Trinidad Chambliss wants to come back because while he could go and probably be a 3rd or 4th round pick, he could make $6 million this year at Ole Miss. That's why he wants to come back to college. I don't think any of them should be allowed to, but that's the reality of the situation with all of them. Somebody says, kind of shady that the commissioner is just now doing this. And I brought that up too. You've had weeks, if you wanted to come out and say this. John Mack chimes in. He says, if the refs give Auburn 15 foul calls and only 3 on Alabama in the first half like Wednesday, then Auburn has 0 chance to win. Hey, to be fair, Texas A&M was in the double bonus with like 11 minutes left. So they paid it back in the second half, John Mack. Y'all had a chance. It was a great game, though, John Mack. It was a great game. Let's see. Someone says there's also the Iron Cup this weekend. Alabama versus Auburn hockey. The Tide should continue their dominant run over the Tigers. Okay.
That's cool, calling it the Iron Cup instead of the Iron Bowl of hockey.
Sure.
I'll give them credit for that.
Yeah, I like that. Don says, Auburn can't let the Bammers win in the jungle like last year. 88-80 Auburn tomorrow, and New England wins 24-21. Giddy up. That does it for us. We're back Monday at 6. Come see us at Crafts 280, 10-2 with the Birmingham Stallions. Mac and Cube is up next.